arrive 1 or 2 minutes after the top, won't miss much. So welcome everyone to today's Live On Now session, where we'll be doing an overview of what's new for ServiceNow's process mining solution in the Xanadu release. Before we get to the content, let's get through the mandatory housekeeping. As we're going through the content, when you have a question, please post it in the Q&A section. The plan today is to get through the content and get to the questions at the end. But please, as soon as you have a question, get it in there so we can make sure that it gets answered. This presentation will be recorded and posted to the community along with the slides. So just go back to the same page you registered for the session on, and you'll find it. And you can always go to the process mining FAQ on the community site, and that'll have a link to this session as well as tons of other content you'll find useful. And then finally, at the end, you're going to get a survey that pops up when you choose to leave. Your responses to that survey are what determine whether I have a job tomorrow or not. So if you would, the Live On ServiceNow team has encouraged me to encourage all of you to fill that out. This is the slide that says, hey, anything we say and do here today can't be held against us in the court of law. Also the slide that says, hey, as part of this conversation, if we happen to make any forward-looking statements about things that might be coming on the ServiceNow platform, you should take them as such, make no decisions based on them whatsoever, because they're always subject to change. I'm sure you've read the fine print because you've all mostly seen this slide before. Who am I? My name is Dan Grady. I'm part of the product management team here at ServiceNow for our in-platform process mining solution. What are we going to do here today? Well, we'll do a quick little process mining 101. Some of you might be stumbling across process mining for the first time, so we just want to kind of get you up to speed about what it is and why it's important. And then we'll dive into what's new for process mining in the Xanadu release content. We break this section up into we'll run through the new enhancements and slides. Then we'll do some live demonstrations of some of the capabilities. We find that gets a positive response from our customers and partners, so we keep that format. We'll get your questions answered, we'll point you at some additional resources, and then we'll get you out of here. All right, as always, the quick process mining 101 for the newcomers. So with everything we do, there's a designed and desired path in our minds for how it should work and how things should play out, whether it be planning a webinar like this Live On Now session or a business process or workflow. And when you design things, you design for both efficiency as well as completeness to provide the best experience possible for as many people as possible. Now, unfortunately, what we design isn't always what winds up happening in reality. The reality is that not all work flowing through a given process is going to take the optimal path. And that's going to have a negative impact on both the experience somebody that's requesting the service is having, as well as the people that are trying to deliver that service. Now, identifying what is actually happening within our business processes so we can make improvements to them isn't always easy. Now, what process mining allows us to do is to use the audit log data that gets generated as records move through a given workflow. And then we use that audit log data to create a visual representation of what's actually happening. And this new level of visibility helps us accelerate our ability to identify inefficiencies, non-conformant process activities, and ultimately process improvement opportunities. So process mining gives us the ability to answer process questions that have historically been very challenging for us to answer. So whereas the traditional analytics that we've all been used to using helps us answer questions like, how many cases, incidents, tickets did we work? Which types were they? How long did it take to close those things? Like the what style questions about a process. Process mining helps us answer the why. So things like, where is the process getting stuck? Where is there any sort of unnecessary rework happening? Where is work ping-ponging or bouncing between multiple groups or teams? Where aren't we conforming to what we've designed? All of these things have historically been difficult for us to answer and act upon, and now with process mining, they're on the ServiceNow platform, they're available in just a couple of clicks. We always like to say that process mining is going to get us to the why behind all of your KPIs, and in doing so, it starts to empower everyone involved in the process to make more data-driven decisions about which improvements to make and which ones maybe we can put on the back burner for a little while. All right. On to Xanadu and all of the newness that it provides for us. So you may or may not know this, but process mining was initially released in the Quebec release, and we've made rapid and significant enhancements to the solution over the last few releases. And of course, the Xanadu release is no different. From an overarching product perspective, we as a team are always focused on accelerating our customers' time to value, empowering everyone with process mining insights, and providing end-to-end visibility into all of your processes. The enhancements in the Xanadu release align to those themes. So we have a brand new guided setup experience for improvement opportunities to help you take advantage of a powerful but underutilized part of the solution. These improvement opportunities that surface on the summary and insights page, super powerful. Not as many customers that we like are taking advantage of them. So we're trying to make it a little bit easier for you to know they even exist and then use them. There's some new templates for SLA and approval analysis to streamline the project creation time or your project creation time for these very common scenarios and use cases that we see customers use process mining for. We've made improvements to the process mining dashboard widget that can be added to platform analytics dashboards to help extend the reach of process mining insights. We're introducing the concept of views to improve governance and reduce the number of projects needed in your company. And then one of the crown jewels of the release, in addition to the clustering that we have for short descriptions, we've now added the ability to cluster on the Worknotes and that's going to help surface way more actionable insights than you've been used to seeing inside of process mining today. We've also decided to make an evaluation process mining project available on all instances to generate more awareness and give people in your organizations a taste of the power that process mining could provide. Now, all of these enhancements, they just aim to broaden the accessibility of process mining insights, enabling everyone in an organization to make more informed process improvement decisions and make those decisions at a much more rapid pace than we've been able to do in the past. And so there's plenty to be excited about with the Xanadu release. Let's just dive into each of these things individually. So first major enhancement to focus on is the introduction of a guided setup experience for improvement opportunities. Like I said earlier, we're always focused on accelerating our customers' time to value with process mining. And one of the key aspects of the solution that supports this mission is the rule-based and automated improvement opportunities that surface things like process bottlenecks, rework, and non-conformance scenarios. So while we provide several improvement opportunities as part of the workflow-specific content packs, that and customers can also create their own improvement opportunities to align with your own use cases. In Xanadu, we've added a guided setup experience to help lower that barrier of entry and streamline the time it takes to add improvement opportunities to a process mining project. Now, in addition to the guided setup experience for improvement opportunities, we've also added 2 use case templates for 2 very common types of analysis that customers use process mining for: approval bottlenecks and SLA breach analysis. Both use cases are best analyzed by creating a multi-dimensional map, right? The maps that allow you to put multiple tables in a single view. There's new toggles in the project guided setup experience that immediately create the connection between your parent table, like incident or requested item, and the associated child table for the use case. The template also adds some default activities and breakdowns to help you get started. It's a definite time saver. This one click, like sliding the toggle on, it's going to add so much additional visibility. You'll be able to quickly identify exactly when in the process an SLA breach is occurring, so you can make necessary process adjustments. We'll look at this in the demo piece, but it's a really big time saver for you. Now, in the Xanadu release, we're also introducing the concept of views. Views allow us to consolidate multiple activity definitions like state, assignment group, priority into a single map. And then that allows us to toggle different views of that map on and off. So views are going to help us on multiple fronts. First, views will accelerate our time to improvement by allowing us to surface more improvement opportunities and process insights from a single project. And then this in turn will reduce the number of projects needed per process and help us better govern and scale process mining inside of our organizations. Now, speaking of scaling process mining in organizations, one of the primary ways to raise awareness of any analytics solution, not just process mining, is to put the insights directly in the flow of our stakeholders' lives. So since the Vancouver release, ServiceNow customers have had the ability to embed process mining powered process maps as visualizations on the dashboards they have to expose different stakeholders like process owners to their opportunities to improve. Now, in each release, we have enhanced this process map visualization. And in Xanadu, we've added a big piece, and this ability to drill down to the detailed records behind an inefficient transition on a process map. Now, this might seem like a small enhancement, but to me, it's a critical one. Right? Process mining is great at helping us identify areas of opportunity, but to understand the corrective actions we could take will involve digging in and understanding what people on the front lines are doing in these inefficient scenarios. That information lives in the records themselves. And to be fair, it's one of the biggest benefits to using an in-platform process mining solution is this direct access to the records, this level of detail to take your analysis to an actionable level. Right? It's a huge, huge advantage, which brings me to what might be the most impactful enhancement in the Xanadu release for process mining, Worknotes analysis. So since much of the actionable information comes from the details of what people on the front lines are doing, how can we make it easier to surface those insights? We can apply the ServiceNow platform's machine learning-based clustering capability to those unstructured work notes to help us identify common patterns and themes in the work notes around some inefficient transitions. And this is significantly going to streamline our ability to identify actionable next steps. So really big advantage. Not easy to generate demo data as for this use case, but really, really powerful. So I'm super excited to see you start using this on your own data in your own instances. So we'll look at this in the demonstration portion as well, but it's going to show much in your instances themselves. Now, we are also constantly getting feedback from our customers and using that feedback to improve. So when we revamped the Summary and Insights tab a few releases ago, we removed the variation analysis component that gives insights into all of the different routes that work is taking to get to closure. Now, the route, things like the route most commonly taken, routes with the longest average duration, the routes with the most steps, the ones that are most non-conformant to what you've designed. This variation analysis, it's still and was and is still available in the Analyst Workbench tab, but customers really gravitated to the view that we had on the Summary and Insights page. So we've brought that back based on popular demand. Now, last big enhancement to be aware of is the introduction of the evaluation process mining project on all instances. So like what we found is once someone sees process mining in action, they immediately see the value. But even though the concept of process mining has been around for over 20 years now, there's still many who don't know that process mining is even a thing. So we've decided to activate process mining on all instances, along with an evaluation project for incident. So if a customer goes to the process mining workspace or drills into a performance analytics incident KPI, they will be able to mine the project for the last 7 days of closed instance up to 3,600 records. It's a really small sample size just to give you a taste of what process mining can do, but we think it's going to help raise awareness of the solution. And while the mining takes place, the person waiting is going to be presented with links to a short demonstration, as well as links to our process mining enablement content, like the Academy and the use case series. And if you've not checked out the Academy and the use case series, I recommend you do. They're available on the community site. There's tons of great content out there for you. There are some additional enhancements that round out the release. So prior to Xanadu, you could choose to include specific activity values. In Xanadu, you can now do the reverse and exclude certain values. A big one for those of you that have spent time creating projects with the new guided setup we introduced in Washington. Prior to Xanadu, you had to individually choose your breakdown values, somewhat time consuming when you can add up to 10 breakdowns per project. Guess what? Now you can do a multi-select, which will speed things up a little bit. It's a little thing, but it goes a long way. We've also added toggles so you can show full node names on the Analyst Workbench map. Very handy for assignment group style analysis where you have somewhat longer names. And lastly, we added a toggle for the arcs on the multi-dimensional maps just to help with the readability a little bit. So As you've seen, Xanadu is a pretty packed release, and we're already looking forward to what's coming in Yokohama and beyond. But let's jump in and now let's demonstrate some of these capabilities live inside of an instance. Okay, so first, we're going to create a project together, just go through some of the enhancements that will help with the project creation process. So I'm going to come here to my process mining workspace. If you've never seen it before, you just go to your workspaces, you choose process mining workspace, and I'll hit create new project. And this will bring up the new guided setup experience. So for those of you that are like skipping a release, which I know many customers do, you might be experiencing this guided setup for the first time in Washington. We've taken the traditional list and forms way to create process mining projects, and we've put a guided setup on top of it. We'll call this project live on now. We'll choose our table, which is our incident table. You'll also notice, for those that are seeing this for the first time, there's tons of useful, helpful information here on the side panel to help you get started. And we'll hit Create Project. And then we'll just start scoping our analysis. First thing that we need to do, as always, is give some filter criteria to kind of help scope the data that we want to mine. As always, we'll choose the active as false filter just to make sure that we're focused in on closed work. I could add some additional stuff here, but I don't need to today because I don't have a specific use case. And then we'll add our activity. Now I'm just going to come here, I'm going to add my state as an activity. And once I add state, we'll just point out one of the enhancements. So now you may or may not notice this. I've noticed this before, but if you choose a field for an activity, you also have the ability to come in here and say, I only want to include specific fields, or I want to now exclude certain fields. So maybe in this case here, I don't want awaiting change to show on the map. I don't want awaiting equipment to show on the map, and we'll hit save. So little thing, but just to help you kind of control what we're displaying on the map and help you kind of focus your analysis a little bit tighter. And I'll save that. Then we'll come to our breakdowns. And here's the enhancement that probably seems, again, like a little thing, but the fact that I can do multi-select here and say I want to add category, I want to add assignment group, I want to add priority maybe. And then for some of you that saw that reassignment count may have disappeared from your breakdowns options, it is now back. So we'll add reassignment count. Those all get added. I'll hit save. And we'll be done with that. So little thing, some time savers. And now to our use cases, right? So let's just toggle on this include SLA breach use case. And you'll notice that it's added an additional table to my analysis. And in addition to that, it adds some filter conditions, right? So the has breached field, the created is not empty, original breach time is not empty. It's added some activities, and it's added some breakdown fields. Now, I highly recommend that while we've added this, ability to quickly create this use case for you, the SLA breach. I know many customers customize and configure things a little bit differently. So just go in and validate the fields that we're adding, align with yours. That would be a best practice. And we can be done with this. And now let's select our improvement opportunities. Now here, the improvement opportunities, these are those, these come in two flavors I mentioned already, rule-based and automated. We do provide some from a content pack. So, you can come in here and you can add from that content pack library. And what these help us do is identify common inefficiencies and common patterns. You might see this red box pop up every now and then. It's not really an error. It's just an indication that, hey, you added some improvement opportunities from the library that don't align to the activities you chose for this project. So they're not going to get added. So we can add the ones that exist out of the box, but you also have the ability to create your own. And we'll just look at this. This is one of the new enhancements, is this guided setup experience for creating improvement opportunities, both rule-based and automated. For those that are not familiar, we package up 7 automated detectors for things like ping pong, extra steps, slow transitions, extreme repetition, rework. So you can come in here and quickly say, hey, I want to look for extra steps in the process based on my state fields. Extra steps, we'll say state. And the field that we're going to use is state. The category is going to be conformance. And then maybe we want to link this to our MTTR KPI. And we've a couple of clicks, created a detector. So when we go mine this data, it's going to go look for all these scenarios in which there's one additional step in the process that is different than what we've designed. Pretty handy, pretty powerful. So those are those automated detectors, but you also have the ability to come in here and create rule-based ones to align to your specific scenario. So let's just walk through creating a rule-based one. I have one that I like to use with most customers to look for automation opportunities. We'll say automation ops, work taking longer than 2 minutes, but less than 30 minutes. So what this is a use case, and we'll just say this is an automation. We don't add a KPI for this one just now. I like to look for any work that's taking longer than 2 minutes and less than 30 minutes to go from work in progress to resolve. Because if it's less than 2 minutes, you've probably already automated it. If it's but less than 30 minutes and longer than 2 minutes is something that's really easy for someone to do. But they, you know what? It's just really easy to do, right? It's probably just sending them a knowledge article or something like that. So maybe we can look at those as opportunities to automate if we isolate that work and dig into it. So we'll say state is in progress, directly followed by state is resolved. And you know what? I want to add that constraint. Let's make this the last occurrence of that. The constraint of, let's say, 2 minutes. We'll just say 2 minutes. Constraint of greater than 2 minutes and less than 30 minutes. And we'll save that constraint. So now when we mine this data, it's going to flag all these situations, and when in progress to resolve is between 2 and 30 minutes. So really easy things to do. Maybe we can create some knowledge articles for those things, or virtual agent conversations, or some form of automation. So that's another new enhancement in Xanadu, that guided setup for the improvement opportunities to help streamline the process of creating them, making it really easy for you to start to surface lots of opportunities, improvement opportunities in your data. And we'll just say mine project, and away we go. Now, as some of you know, this could take anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. So while this runs, I'm just going to jump over and show us another feature to be more efficient with our time, or another enhancement. And one of the enhancements that we've talked about already is that ability to drill down to the detailed records from a process map that's been added to a dashboard. So many of you are probably already familiar with this, but if not, as of the Vancouver release, you have the ability to add these process mining maps or visualizations to your platform analytics dashboards. And with each release, we add some interactivity to them. So what I can come in here is I can maybe drill down on this. And when I drill down on a certain node, it'll start to show me all the incoming and outgoing routes into that node. And now I can just say, maybe just showing all the incoming for things going into the awaiting caller info state. Or maybe I want to look at the things that are going out from the awaiting caller info state. And I can see this one weird transition to me, like how does something go from awaiting caller info back to new? And on average, it's taking 6 days to do that. So maybe I want to drill in and focus in on those records. So you notice now on that arc, I have this show records option. So in a single click now, I can get down to the detailed records that are going, that at some point in their life go from awaiting caller info back to the new state. And again, seems like a little thing, but really important when you start trying to figure out where the actionable information lives inside of an inefficient arc or pattern inside of your process data. All right, one other enhancement that I wanted to show from this view here is the performance analytics, process mining better together type of story. Is that evaluation project. So you could be on a dashboard just like this. I'm sure many of you have dashboards just like this where you have KPIs and reports. Well, from any one of those, you have the ability to drill down and ultimately get to a place, in this case, I drilled down a performance analytics KPI that's tied to incident. And I know it's super small, but on every KPI details page, you have this little run process mining icon. If you click this, this will mine the data behind that KPI. Now, for those of you that are entitled to process mining, it'll mine the full set of data. For those of you that don't yet have process mining enabled, what this will do is it'll launch into an evaluation project. As you're waiting for the mining to take place, you'll be presented with some links to some demos and explainers. And as mentioned earlier, links to our Process Mining Academy and use case series. And then once the mining is finished, you'll be able to drill into the workbench itself and just look at what a finished process mining project looks like on your own data. Again, 7 days, up to 3,600 records. So it's not going to give you a ton of insight, but it will give you a feel for the types of things and questions that process mining can help you ask and answer on top of your own data. So that's the evaluation project. Let's come back over here. All right, our project that we created finished, so we can just open that up and look at this Live on Now project. We'll come down here on the Summary and Insights page. You'll notice that we have some of our improvement opportunities that have been flagged for us, all of our different extra step detectors that got triggered based on the data that we mined, as well as our automation ops. So work that is taking longer than 2 minutes, but less than 30. So we could always drill into those in the workbench and start to isolate those and look at those scenarios. And you'll notice here my work in progress or in progress to resolved less than 12 minutes. So it isolated that data for me. All right, what other enhancements do we want to focus here? That just looking at my checklist, what didn't we show yet? Evaluation project. All right, let's look at this views example here. So let's see if I have my views. Here we go. So we talked a little bit about views, right? The idea is just, if you have not played with process mining before, used it before, these improvement opportunities, all of the things that are being surfaced here, they're based on the activities you choose, right? We chose state activity when we created that other project. You can also choose assignment group, priority. So in order to generate as many improvement opportunities as possible for a single project, we want to have a lot of activities. But the more activities you add to a project, the messier the map can get, right? So if we look at this map where in this case here, we added priority, assignment group, and state as activities. If I were to expand this map out, the map is going to get really, really messy. So what views allows us to do is say, okay, let's put all that power into a single map, but then maybe I just want to focus in on the priority activities, right? Where priorities are changing in the project. So I can narrow it down to this scenario where I'm just looking at the different priority changes that go on, and maybe I can isolate a scenario where I see, let's use variation analysis actually to do this, where I can come in here and I'm just looking for scenarios where, I don't know, these things are changing. Let's sort it by, yeah, these 939, let's do that. I've got these 939 incidents that are being reprioritized as part of the project from high to moderate. That seems like something that I might want to focus in on, because if they come in as a high, we're going to spin up a whole bunch of resources and then they get downgraded, and we might not have needed to spin up those resources in the first place. So maybe I want to focus in on those. And now that I've isolated to those 939 that are going from high down to moderate, maybe I want to look at it from an assignment group perspective and start to see which teams are involved in these scenarios where things are being transferred or changing priority. And I can see I've got a bunch of them here in which the group is changing. So I might want to focus in on those. And just like you saw me do before, one of the biggest values adds of being an in-platform solution is I can dive into the records behind these in which the priority is changing as part of the process and continue to evaluate those things. So that's the views capability, this ability to toggle different slices of the map, get all the power of the improvement opportunities for all the activities, but then when you're working with the map, being able to isolate certain pockets of the data. All right. I think I've got one more thing. Oh, no, two more things that I want to show. Excuse me. One would be the variation analysis on the assignment group. Back on the Summary and Insights page, sorry. So you just saw me use the variation analysis as part of the project to slice and dice the different routes that were coming in. Well, you also have that ability here on the Summary and Insights page now. So instead of looking at improvement opportunities only, where I've got my list, I've also got the variation analysis here. So we can start looking at all the different routes that work is taking to get to closure. So the routes with the longest average duration, the routes with the most steps. This is always one of my favorite ones to look at customer data on, to see. I think the record is 803 different assignment groups that a record went through before it got to closure. So it's just a handy way to see kind of how well you're conforming to your designed process and where things are kind of outliers or the outliers that are non-conformant that you might want to focus in on. And on any one of those, you have the ability to drill down into the process map for that specific route. combination there. So maybe I see I've got these 26 here that are going from CX Support Americas to Salon and Tech Support back to CX Support Americas. And on average, it's taking them 1 month to do that. Maybe I want to just focus in on that pattern and see who's holding on to the work the longest. So the variation analysis is a super powerful way to kind of dig into a very common use case, which is multi-hop scenarios in your organization. All right, last one, final one, work notes analysis. So let's just log in here and we'll take a look at work notes analysis. All right, and I'm going to jump over to my workspace, and I've got a very specific project here. Now, one of the things, the work notes analysis is super powerful, but there's not a ton of, it's not easy to generate demo data to highlight this. I'm like adding work notes to a whole bunch of tickets to demo tickets or cases or incidents to kind of cluster on. So I've got one scenario that works, but the idea is you might be looking at a project like this and you may see an inefficient transfer between teams. Now, today or prior to Xanadu, you'd have a number of different ways to investigate that, whether it be showing the records, running clustering on the short descriptions or the descriptions, or running some root cause analysis on that data. But as of Xanadu, though, you now have this work notes analysis capability. So what it's going to do is going to look at the records or the work notes and comments around that inefficient transfer, and then start to run some clustering on that to see if there's any trends or patterns in that inefficient transfer that you might be able to take advantage of. And then right from here, you get the clusters. You'd be able to drill into those clusters and understand a little bit more about that inefficient transfer. You also get some statistics, like not all work notes are going to be good for analysis purposes here. So it kind of gives you a sense of, hey, what records or how many of the records were we able to pull quality work notes from to analyze? Some of them are going to be too short or too long to be analyzed. So you get a sense of kind of the quality of the data that was used to do this analysis to help get you going. So that's the work notes analysis capability. Again, it's probably going to show a lot better on your real data than it does on my demo data here. I think that's it from a demo perspective. So let's get to your